the big secret, which is not so secret, is that you get zero education on business in medical school or medical training. All of it has to be done outside of your medical education. And so the way I started was actually just reading blogs online. One of the more popular ones is called White Coat Investor. Mm-hmm. And just learning the basics, not just on real estate, but also investing and setting up your good 401k, setting up your investment accounts, your Roth IRAs, all the basics, your HSA accounts, just getting that situated. And then once you have your baseline set up, then you can dive more into other types of investments.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today's guest is Dr. Gustavo Elias, a Yale-trained interventional radiologist and neuroscientist who's combining cutting-edge medical procedures with a forward-thinking approach to building wealth. Let's dive into his journey. Gustavo, we are here. Welcome to the show. How does it feel to be Gustavo today?
Yeah, it feels fantastic.
Yeah. So you actually asked me how I was feeling before we started recording, and I said I've never been better, and you laughed a little bit. I'm always surprised, like when I say that, and like people's reaction about that. So what does that make you feel when I say I've never been better? When you ask me how I'm doing?
I mean, to me, when I hear that, it means like, oh, this is like the best moment of your life, essentially. That's why I laugh.
Yeah. So I love explaining it too, because through the years, I've trained myself to keep that perspective. And if you think about it, culminating up to this point, it's absolutely the best day of my life. I'm so blessed. I woke up this morning, my lungs are filled with air. I got out of bed. I've got a beautiful family, my house. I mean, I just love it. I'm happy, you know?
Well, that's honestly, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm a huge believer in practicing gratitude and giving thanks to God every single day.
Oh, yes.
I think that's how you're supposed to start your day, by starting off with that sort of mindset and that sort of gratitude in your heart.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And I also explain in these conversations too, that it's a roller coaster. You know, you've got the opportunity when somebody asks you, hey, how are you doing? And you do it great or whatever. Right. And not believe it and not fix your perspective on gratitude. But if it's just saying that to kind of get through the small talk, then there's no meaning. But if you use that every single opportunity when somebody asks you how you're doing to reset your perspective, I mean, think about that mind shift, that what that does for you every day. And it put a smile on my face. How about that? And you know how many times I've said that? All right. Enough of that.
All right, we'll move on from that, but that's good.
Let's get serious here. Let's talk about you. Man, you are a Yale-trained VIR in neuroscientist. What attracted you to that path, and how has it shaped your professional mindset?
So I'm a Yale-trained interventional radiologist. How did I get into interventional radiology? That took a few years of figuring things out once I was in medical school. So I went through all the main rotations in medical school, internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, etc. And as I went through each rotation, I found little bits and pieces I liked and what I didn't like. But then by the end of the third year, I sort of came to the conclusion that I didn't like any rotation I rotated through. So I had sort of a mini crisis in terms of, where am I going to go with my career? Thankfully, I had a very good counselor who kind of put me aside and said, hey, focus. Let's look at what you did like and what you didn't like about medicine, your third year rotations, and let's see if we can come up with something. And so after having that list of my pros and cons for the year, which ended up being I love surgery, but nothing too invasive or complex. I wanted something that was sort of forward thinking or frontier pushing. I liked patient care and interacting with patients, but not doing 5-6 hour rounds in the hospital. And I love technology. And so once I put it all together, then my counselor said, well, you should look into interventional radiology. And so then I signed up for a month-long rotation at my medical school, and the rest is history. Fell in love with it. all the cool technologies, all the procedures, all the patients we got to help. And ever since then, that's what I've been doing and what I love to do.
Very interesting. And I've got in my notes here that you've got like an entrepreneurial approach with your current setup. Are you W-2 or do you have your own practice, or what's that look like?
So I'm part of a larger radiology practice, and within our practice, we cover hospitals, imaging centers, and then we also have our own clinic / outpatient based lab. And that's really where I perform the majority of my procedures and I see my patients. And that's kind of where we get to do some of the more kind of forward-thinking and more minimally invasive procedures that I enjoy performing. An example of that would be shrinking prostates without surgery, with a procedure called prostate artery embolization. Another procedure is called fibroid embolization, where you can shrink fibroids without having to do major surgery. And those are some of the procedures that I perform and love to do for people.
That's awesome. And it sounds like what I'm hearing, your path has been designed kind of as you're going based on the things that you want to do and stepping back and not just falling into a rhythm of where you fit, where you match, but things that you want to do, Gustavo. Do you think that feels like what it is for you too?
That's very accurate. I'll just share with you the latest thing that I've delved into and now I'm incorporating into my practice is something called interventional orthobiologics. And what that is actually using your own body, taking the cells and what we call platelet-rich plasma from your body, and then injecting that directly into joints, tendons, ligaments, muscles that are injured to promote healing without having to do surgery. And that's sort of the next phase of where I'm going and where I like to pursue my passion in medicine.
Yeah, I'm combining neuroscience in kind of like a similar way myself. Now, I'm not a physician or anything like that, but in my brain, I'm trying to will a bum knee that I've got just by making it better, keep on working on it, and just staying happy along the way. But hey, many physicians think about wealth or like this path. You've chosen this path. You've been very intentional on this path. Some physicians don't think about that until burnout hits. So it's cool that you've got this path intentionally before something like that has happened. But what does freedom or wealth mean to you?
That's a very good question. So freedom, do you mean separately? You mean in terms of freedom and wealth, or freedom?
Whatever it means to you.
Whatever it means to me. Yeah. So for me, freedom is the ability to pursue life the way you want it to. And then wealth comes in many forms. There's financial wealth. There's wealth in terms of assets, money, properties, things like that. There's also physical wealth, which is taking care of your body and making sure, that your body is in the best shape possible to help other people. There's spiritual health, which is making sure that you are, your mind is clear, your soul is content, and that you're one with God. So those are all the different parts of wealth. And freedom is the ability to then be able to fully manifest what you want to do in this life. And so one of the ways you can achieve freedom to do what you want in this life is to make sure that you're not tied down to any particular entity or place or workplace, and that you can create for yourself financial freedom to then be able to pursue what you like to do. So that's, in a nutshell, what I view as freedom, and having financial freedom to then pursue what you want to do.
And how are these things linked to your current path? Have you started thinking about being able to disconnect yourself? Because one of those things would be geographical freedom. So how can you disconnect yourself from where you're at in order to fulfill those other things?
Well, geographical freedom can come in the form of finding a place. It can be as simple as just finding a little house away from where you live to be as a retreat place. That can be your sort of geographical freedom, that you're not tied down to one location. Also, if you are interested in pursuing opportunities in other places where you can practice medicine on your own time, that's another avenue to pursue sort of geographical freedom too. I know some physicians that provide locum coverage, and that's another way that you can step outside of a regular 9 to 5 job in an office, in a clinic, in a hospital, and then you can actually dictate your schedule the way you want it to, and you can practice in areas that you would never have access to before.
Yeah. And to me, I'm just thinking like the ultimate freedom could come from that path when you are able to disconnect your time from your money. When these things are disconnected, then it allows you to focus on things that you're passionate about that may still earn you money, but it fills a different bucket. These things happen when we look at learning more about business, investing, and ownership. Mm-hmm. I know that's been such a struggle for so many physicians. When does that happen? Or how have you started thinking about that early on in your career?
So I'll say the best advice I got when I finished my training, because as most doctors and people in the know are aware, is residents and fellows in this country are not paid very well, and so you're just sort of making ends meet when you're a fellow and a resident. The best advice I got was when you graduate and you finally make that nice paycheck, you should spend the first at least 2, maybe 3 years outside of your training living like a resident. Mm-hmm. And don't get caught up into the lifestyle creep. I know for a lot of physicians, it's very challenging because we have to sacrifice for so many years. And that sacrifice, can last 5, 7, 9, 10 years. And so when you graduate, the natural instinct is to like treat yourself, whether it's, buy a nice watch or a fancy car or something like that. But if you were to put that on hold for a couple more years, pay off your loans, any debt that you have, purchase a home, then you can start from that point forward, and you can start to build that financial wealth that you really do need to. Because in a way, we're all sort of behind the 8 ball when it comes to other professions in terms of building wealth. But by living like a resident for a couple more years, you can catch up very quickly.
Yeah. And it's important. I mean, your perspective, who you're comparing yourself against is really important. And that will, unfortunately, help you make decisions in a good way or in a bad way. But I've had so many heated emotional conversations about this because from the outside, I mean, I struggle too with the idea, okay, delayed gratification. And then I hear, Brett, don't tell me about delayed gratification. Like, how long do I have to go through this residency, fellowship, all of this stuff? Like, don't tell me about it. I've been driving a Honda Civic from 1987 and eating ramen noodles. Don't tell me about delayed gratification. But it is, you're just right. I would add to that, just be careful who you're comparing yourself to. Mm-hmm. And that will help make that shift as well, too. And then in this moment, Gustavo, when we get to change and start investing in ourselves, real estate happens. You mentioned buy a house. Being careful on what kind of house you're buying. Be careful on who you're comparing yourself to. In that process too. But buying a house as a real estate investment is also another path or a mechanism to help us separate time from money. Tell me a little bit about your ventures into real estate so far.
I'll be upfront. I'm not a huge real estate mogul or investor. I'm still sort of relatively in the infancy part of real estate investing. I will say when you do purchase your first home, don't go for the $3 million mansion, down the street. Or in behind the Golden Gates. What you should focus on is purchasing a home that fits your needs, and then location is also very important. Whether it's by a very good school district, close to where you work, or close to the interstate. Those are some of the key things to look for in a home, and because those things make the resale value higher, and it makes it easier to then sell your home if you were to move, or if you were to then purchase another home. Finding a place that you can easily rent out to somebody else too, because then that's how you build your real estate portfolio, is by purchasing properties, but then also having people that can rent out those homes too.
Yeah, and talking about rentals, I know that you talked a little bit about like vacation style rentals, right? Tell us a little bit about what interests you in the vacation rental world.
That purely came out of desire to have my own place. To have a vacation home towards. That's really where that came from. But it's also same principles and concepts, looking for the place that has, great location, not too many fees that you have to pay for. And then also, just keeping it simple. So no extravagant homes, even just having like a condo by the beach can work really well too. That's where that desire came from. And knowing that people are more and more looking towards having like more space when they go take a vacation. You know, Airbnbs are very popular. Those are always things that I keep in the back of my mind.
Have you had any action steps at this point? Have you started underwriting? Do you know what you're looking for? Do you know your area? Do you know your buy box?
I do know my buy box. I know where I'm looking for. It's now in terms of picking the right spot and then executing. That's where I am at the moment.
Nice. And how about financing? Have you thought about how you're going to finance that?
Good question. You know, with the loans, the way they are right now, the loan rates are kind of high. So making sure that you're able to put a good down payment on the house is important. And then also, if you are going to make it into a rental, making sure you already have people like in line to then rent it out from you. That's why I found it to be important.
Yeah. So if I'm thinking of vacation rental, short-term piece, a big piece is going to be the property manager. That way you're not required to do all of this stuff. So that would be a great first relationship to build even prior to acquiring, because then they would be able to say, hey, this area is great. Hey, this area is not so bad. You know what I mean? They'll help you in your buy box. Find one that aligns with your goals, but also one that aligns with an investment opportunity as well, too. And then looking at the returns, how do I anticipate what the income is going to be so I don't have to bear the weight of that second mortgage as well, too. So I think those would be great ways to look at, kind of like reverse engineer that thing back and find a winning solution for you.
I mean, those are really, really good points. My parents have a rental property in South Carolina themselves, and they use a property manager to help with that too. So yep. It's been a very successful relationship.
Yeah. And most of the time, it's all about a good relationship, because everybody can blow smoke and give sunshine and rainbow stories, but a good relationship where the trust is there can be so valuable to you, and you can learn or gain other relationships through that relationship as well too. So yeah, great way to build that back. Besides that, Gustavo, what are some other things that you are looking at, maybe in the real estate world? Do you see it in your future to do more real estate?
I do see it in my future, because when you look at some of the other investment opportunities that you have, it's very volatile. So, not that real estate isn't volatile. It's sort of nice having something tangible, as an investment versus something in the stock market. So it's something I do see myself doing more in the future. I'm just not, like I said before, I'm not the real estate mogul that I want to be quite yet.
Well, if the seed is planted, there's something growing. I encourage you to keep pressing in and keep building those, relationships, because the sooner you start, the better it's going to be. And even if it's just having those conversations, going to a meetup, and I know you're extremely busy, but these are the little things where the opportunity could come. And then continue to grow from there and find that little niche that makes sense to you, whether it's in, syndications where they're more passive, but still reaping benefits of cash on cash, the equity multiples, those kind of things. So lots of stuff happening there. Where have you started learning about real estate? The vacation rental seems like maybe have come from your parents' experience here in South Carolina, but through your medical education journey, where do you pick up on these ideas of real estate being a good investment?
Well, the big secret, which is not so secret, is that you get zero education on business in medical school or medical training. All of it has to be done outside of your medical education. And so the way I started was actually just reading blogs online. One of the more popular ones is called White Coat Investor. And just learning the basics, not just on real estate, but also investing and setting up your good 401k, setting up your investment accounts, your Roth IRAs, all the basics, your HSA accounts, just getting that situated. And then once you have your baseline set up, then you can dive more into other types of investments. That's where I started, and that's where I currently am in. So honestly, a lot of my education has been through word of mouth and online, just researching myself.
Yeah, I hear blogs a lot, and I hear Jim or White Code Investor Jim Daly is he was an ER physician, right? That started
Yeah,
that. Great
exactly.
platform. We've got it linked on our website as well too. So that is great. But um how do we bridge that gap where we start learning about finances and investing earlier? You know, we know it's not part of the education, but you got to keep the one thing. But it's so important to practice from passion as opposed from need or necessity, right? So how can we help others start learning sooner?
It's a very good question. I don't know, have a good answer for it. All I can say is, I would say even during maybe even high school or college, giving kids, the ability to learn about, investments and finances from the very get-go. Because then at least if you don't know the specifics, you at least have your mind aware of what's out there. I would also just, recommend if possible, during medical school or during residency education, having like at least some sort of webinar or seminar where residents can attend, how to invest or, investing 101.
Yeah.
And that way you're not completely blind or blindsided by reality. When you graduate, you spent so many years learning medicine, but then now you have to also incorporate that into, your life in the real world.
Yeah.
So I think the earlier the education, the better.
And I don't know haven't been to college in a really long time, but I don't know of any electives that you can take, instead of like rock climbing or guitar. Maybe there should be like real estate investing 101, the simple basics,
No, that would be sorry. That would be huge. I tried in college. I took a few, economics classes and business classes in college, and you never get any of that stuff there.
Right. Yeah. It's to me, that's just like all macro, huge stuff, a huge fun. Like break it down to the simple 101. If you buy a house, you have a loan for this much, the rent is this much, these are your expenses, this is your return, here's some tax benefits. Like keep it simple. And even like what I was saying about, hey, okay, you wanted to do vacation rental. Maybe there's a vacation rental section. Go build the relationship with the property manager. Learn from them how to get the proposed or projected rents. Break that down. Reverse engineer deals. That's awesome. What advice do you have for younger physicians thinking about diversifying income or starting something like entrepreneurial?
My advice would be pick something that you love and that you're passionate about, because it'll be a lot easier to dive into it and get good at really quickly. Whether it's, I know we're talking about real estate, but if you love real estate, then fantastic, you can dive into it. But if it comes down to, you want to do stocks or crypto or other assets, whatever you are passionate about, whatever you are really interested in, then that you're more likely to dive right into it and be successful in.
That's awesome. Hey, what's next for Gustavo? Professional, personally, what's on the books?
Oh, what's on the books? There's a lot of wonderful opportunities coming ahead for me. It's more focusing on continuing to build my practice, and bringing more awareness to my specialty and the procedures that I offer to not only my community, but also to the larger audience. So that's what's coming up soon.
And where can the listeners follow up with you, Gustavo?
So I'm pretty active on social media. So you can find me on my Instagram account. It's at dr.gustavo. You can also find me on LinkedIn and website to where my clinic is located too.
That's awesome. And Dr.Gustavo is DOCTOR. It's all spelled out. So
correct. Dr. DOCTOR dot Gustavo. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And we'll have that in the show description. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. It's been awesome. And I want you to try this today. When somebody, because you're going to walk outside of that office, you're going to go out there, somebody's going to ask you, hey, Gustavo, how are you doing today? Right? What are you going to tell them?
This is the best day of my life.
That's right. This is the best day of my life. I've never been better.
Been better.
Yes, start feeding off of that. And that energy will just allow you to again, pivot that perspective back to gratitude. And I'm telling you, it's going to brighten your day. And then believe it. Say it and believe it.
You have to believe it. Yeah, no, but your energy is infectious. So keep doing what you're doing.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
What a fun and refreshing conversation. Hey, Gustavo reminded us to live with gratitude. And I tell you what, I want you to try this today. When somebody asks you how you're doing today, tell them, never been better. Try it just one time, and I promise you, things are going to shift. And you keep repeating that, it's going to control your perspective for the day. Your perspective is gratitude, everything is going to be better. Gustavo also reminded us to invest in what we love and to start learning about real estate, even if we're not moguls yet. These mind shifts alone can change everything, I promise you. It puts a smile on my face. And if you want to find out more about Gustavo, you can reach out to him on his LinkedIn or his Instagram. His Instagram is dr.gustavo, and you can find him there. Hey, you know where to find us. You found us here. Thank you for your time and most importantly, your attention. This is the Real Estate Mogul MD.
This episode is powered by Crescent Tech. If you are looking for a CRM built for real estate investors, discover Streamline REI by Crescent Tech. Simplify, automate, close faster.